Gonna be what the secondary market be like.
Don't lose your way, your mind, we have to be as one.
What's going on YouTube? Or Storm here coming at you guys with another discussion video today. So if you couldn't tell by the thumbnail or the beginning portion, there's something I want to, this is something that's kind of been on my mind for quite some time. And first off, before you get anything, shout out to my boy Cosmic for making the thumbnail. His little channel will be down below in the description box. Thank him for that. But anyway, all that out of the way, we want to talk about reprints, and is Konami reprinting things too much? So this has been something that's been on my mind for a while, and if you, for a little bit of history lesson real quick, when I first got in the game back in, I think it was 2014, yes it was when I was kind of getting more into the game in terms of going to tournaments and stuff. One thing I noticed real quick is that cards were very expensive. There was a time where number 101 Silent Honor Arc was a card you had to, if you're playing any kind of rank 4 toolbox based deck, or most decks in general at the time, you kind of had to have a 101 in your extra deck, because, and one thing at the time of that format, which is like April of 2014, when 101 came out, it completely changed the game, because it meant you couldn't simply summon big boss monsters in attack mode because you'd risk them getting snatched by 101. And this was a very game-changing card, and ended up being about a $50 card at the time, which was really expensive. Then Exiton was like a $90 card, which is crazy. Vol Chain was about $40. Draco Sack was about 60 to 80. Big Eyes, I think, were 20 to 40. Even Black Rose Dragon, which is a card that nowadays you can get an ultra rare for like $1. Black Rose Dragon in almost any printing was $20, $25. It's pretty crazy. But I feel like Konami, once they started the Megatins, they went on this spiral where they reprint cards too much. Now, you might be saying, Aura, like, aren't reprints great for the game? Doesn't it, isn't it great? Most, like, average players can afford the cards. And I think, for the most part, yes, but the biggest thing it affects is the secondary market's ability to make money. Now, I understand there's a big difference between those type of people who buy out things to try to flip them for a profit, and the type of guys who fund your regionals. So, if you have a local card shop, that is what's called an OTS store, which, if you're unfamiliar with the term, an OTS store is basically a store funded by Konami that basically sets it up so you can basically, they get products straight from Konami. It's an official store. They host events from the store. They get OTS packs. So if they don't see Yu-Gi-Oh as a way to make money and make profit, you might not have that locals to go to anymore. And that's one of the things I think. And the thing is, a lot of times the types of, people who fund these big regionals, that I go to the Houston Regional pretty much 3-4 times a year. I try to make, pretty much the only one I ever miss is during May usually, but I tend to go to every Houston Regional I can. And DNA Comics always funds those regionals in our area, and they're one of the big card shops in the area. But if they can't, that's one of the things that I've noticed. And this is mostly in reference to Battles of Legend, where just about every expensive card in our game is getting reprinted now. I don't think people should be paying like $80 for Crystal Wing, or like $50, $60 for Omega. I think that's a little unreasonable. But I do think that there has to be a kind of line between just mass reprinting everything and, not reprinting anything at all like they used to back in the old, and back in 2014, where before the Megatins, cards didn't get reprinted at the rate they are today. In that little span in 2014, we saw so many reprints that Black Rose went from about a $25 card down to $2 because of just a couple of reprints. And it's just crazy to see. And I think Battles, now, don't get me wrong, I think it's great, but there always needs to be some form of expensive card in our game. Otherwise, there is lack of reason. If there isn't something, reason for these shops and stuff to put money into the game, to get product from Konami to make those profits, you may not have as many shops in it. And that's one of the things that's really key. there always should be some form of card in this game that holds value. I'm not so much talking about, I consider, high rarity versions of cards like, Ghost Rare Stardust Dragons are a great example, are about $35-$40 right now. I kind of don't count those because those are something that tend to hold value no matter what. It's more just your average staples kind of need to hold value in some form or fashion. Otherwise, it's very difficult for vendors and the people who fund our tournament and keep our game going. It's very difficult for them. Battles of Legend is a great example of this because if you had a bunch of break swords, your break swords went from $40 down to $15 in overnight. Your force tricks, if you had a bunch of force tricks, those went from 20 to 10 overnight. It makes it really difficult for people to invest in this game when you don't know if Konami's going to wake up one day and decide they want to mass reprint everything 5 months after release. And I think the Battles of Legend is one example. And don't get me wrong, I think cards like Spellbook of Secrets, Blue Boy, those cards are well overdue for reprint. Mermail Bistius, same damn thing. If they're going to reprint things, they shouldn't do what they did in Infinite Gold last year, where, granted, I've got cards from the set because I needed to go to YCS and I want to make sure I could get those cards, and it made that deck I built at the time much more affordable. But at the same time, it also meant that, people who'd spent money, let's say you had Vector Pendulums investing in them, you're probably thinking, okay, Vector's not getting reprinted until next year's Megatons. Well, your Vectors after a Gold Rare reprint went from 20 down to 10 and overnight, or to almost nothing overnight. And that's kind of like, that's one, it's both, it makes things, while I do think reprints are great for some of the players who might not have the budget, the great big budgets, I don't honestly have one either. It's not like I have a massively high paying job, but I think that there's a balance Konami needs to find between just mass reprinting everything at once and keeping a few key cards relative. They have to find. I feel like there is a balance between reprinting everything, which is what Konami does with Megaton, which is between Infinite Gold and all these other reprint sets, and not reprinting it much at all like they did in the previous days. I just feel like there's something that the secondary market, there's a balance. Those guys who run our card shops and stuff, those guys need to make money in order to justify continuing to be an OTS store and invest in this game as they do. So that comes to the end of the discussion video today. Let me know what you guys think. Are you happy to see all the crazy reprints in Battles of Legend, or are you along the lines of one of those people who's like, thinking along my lines? What do you guys think about reprints in the long run? Anyway, guys, as always, I thank you guys for watching. Storm signing out.